A whole lot of people wrote in to tell me how heartless and vicious and cruel I was when I made a video what seems like many months ago, it was probably 2 weeks ago, drawing attention to the potential possibility that my fellow vegan YouTuber, Jacko Wacko Vegano, would now be dumped by his girlfriend, given that he's no longer vegan, given that a big part of what brought them together as a couple and made them stay together as a couple was veganism, vegan activism. And I think the chorus of opinion that rose up against me was, no, she should stay with him, she should be loving and nurturing and caring because of his mental health. And there's this appealing illusion that I here want to lash out against in YouTube video form. There's this appealing illusion that your mental health is something other than who you are. If you're a liar, if you tell lies to people, it's on you. It's your responsibility. No one is accountable but you. More than that, that's who you are. Okay? There's no distinction between what you do and what you are. All right? With time, our actions form our character, but they also demonstrate our character. In a very real sense, they are our character. There's nothing else we can refer to. There's no soul. There's no transcendental, impalpable self that's exterior to and can be contrasted to the sum of our actions, our thoughts, our decisions, so on and so forth, right? So the man who tells lies is a liar. Why is it that when we start using medical sounding terminology, that we start to absolve people of the responsibility for the decisions they make, for the actions they take? When we say, oh, he's a compulsive liar, he has a mania, he has a phobia, he has a mental health problem. Okay? Your physical health is not something other than your body. These are two ways of describing one and the same thing. Your body is not something other than you, than who you really are. Your mental health is not something other than your character. It's not an excuse for your behavior. It's just a way of describing your behavior. Your mental health, your sanity or insanity, it's on you, you're responsible, you're accountable, but more than this, deeper than this, that's who you are. In a very real sense, from my perspective, as a nihilistic atheist, you have no soul. There's neither something magical hidden inside you, nor is there something up in the sky hovering above you that remains untouched and unshaped by your decisions, your actions, your inclinations, your behavior. On the contrary, in a sense, you're less than the sum of these parts. So yeah, in looking at the strange and sad case of this man who knew all the facts and who came here on YouTube and even performed them for an audience, he knew all the reasons to be vegan. He knew the reasons even why the counter-arguments against veganism were immoral and internally contradictory and were bullshit and should be discarded. He knew it all. And he at least parroted it. He at least echoed it, even if he didn't really think it through or understand it. He had all the facts at his disposal. And he made the decision to reject all this and not just go back to eating meat, but to go back to declaring and propounding the very excuses for eating meat that he rejected before, excuses that I think he's familiar with from his own parents, from his grandparents. Yes, if that's your man, you should dump him. If that's your man, you should break up with him. I'd like to make a really strange cultural reference here, but I think millions of people around the world know it. I mean, some things are well known, like Batman and Spider-Man. But you know, there's a real cultural phenomenon now that's been covered on every news station. I think there have been documentary films made about it, which is the brides of ISIS. The women who fell in love with men who went away to fight for ISIS, for the Islamic State, for the Caliphate. Women who in some cases fell in love with and got married to a secular man, sometimes even an atheist man, but in some cases a man who was a very moderate Muslim or didn't have much interest in Islam. And they stayed with that man as he became radicalized, as he became a fundamentalist, as he regained his faith or for the first time discovered faith, as he took the steps toward becoming a terrorist or becoming part of a rebel army, however you want to put it. Okay? It's really easy to imagine that the person you love is something other than the sum of the decisions they've made. But the decisions you make, that's who you are. And worse, as time goes on, most of us, our imaginations become narrower and narrower. We become creatures of habit. We no longer challenge our assumptions. Decisions we were made when we were teenagers tend to shape... people still listen to the same music in their 40s that they listened to when they were teenagers. People eat the same foods and they don't try new foods and they don't try new music. Yes, these things may seem trivial, but there are other decisions we make that are much less trivial, where without regarding the decisions we've made in the past as authoritative, they nevertheless tend to take on a kind of authority in our life, in the narrowing of the middle-aged mind, if I may put it that way. Okay? The man you love is nothing more than the decisions he makes. In a very scary sense, he's something less, because he's unlikely to ever go back and re-examine the assumptions that led him to make those decisions that he's now comfortable with, that he's now living within those bounds. If you fell in love with someone and then they decided to convert to Islam later, or they decided to support ISIS later, dump him. Don't tell yourself, this isn't who he really is. I know who he really is. I know the man I fell in love with. No. You know a man that exists in your mind's eye, in your imagination. What you know is a dream. What you know is something unreal of your own invention. If you fell in love with someone because he was a vegan activist, don't make the excuse, oh, it's just his mental health. His mental health is not something other than who he really is.